Join us. Eat what we command you to, or you shall perish.
Hey guys, welcome to Ascending Human. I'm Brian, and on this episode of my From Lean to Mean series, we're going to be talking about some of the fear-mongering that goes on with all of those crazy food and diet schemes out there. Particularly the newest one. So I had seen the documentary What the Health kind of in different forms of media, whether it's on Netflix or YouTube and things like that, and I didn't really think about it. I didn't even really kind of give it a chance or even look into it until a friend sent me a Facebook message with a video of an actual doctor, an actual physician, I think, reviewing some of the content that is covered in the documentary. I'm putting the link to that video that was shared to me below, so if you want to see an actual doctor's reaction to the documentary What the Health, then click the link below. So more or less, the documentary What the Health tries to link diseases like cancer and heart disease to foods like meats and fish. And for a lot of us, that's terrifying because that's a huge part of our diet. While at the same time, it also defends the use of sugars and high carbohydrates and even processed sugars. Right, because there's absolutely no scientific evidence whatsoever that processed sugar relates to any disease. Yeah, that's strange. But I also want to point out how easy it is to make it look like someone's doing a scientific documentary. Let me show you how easy it was for me to present those charts and graphs to you just now. Let me show you what I did. It's kind of disturbing, right? So really, anybody can make a documentary. But the problem I have with this documentary isn't so much the content. Yes, I disagree with a lot of it, but who am I? I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a licensed physician or anything like that. The problem I have with it is the use of fear-mongering to convince people to agree with them. Now, using fear to get people to act a certain way or do a certain thing, I mean, haven't we been kind of fighting that as a culture? Come on, we're better than that. People deserve more than to be scared out of their wits, and people want to know what's true and what's fake. We're tired of all the garbage and all of the nonsense and all the pseudoscience. So how do we protect ourselves from pseudoscientific things? Well, one of the first things I see when somebody tries to convince you of something using science is they'll say something like scientifically proven. Now, if there's anything I learned from getting my degree in science and being told over and over again that science doesn't prove things, it provides evidence for. That's how the scientific process works, and it's great. Because if science doesn't prove things and only provides evidence for, what that means is that if there's new evidence that is presented that totally contradicts old evidence, we have the right to change our minds. We reserve that right to adjust our opinions and our knowledge based on the newest data, based on the biggest picture of what the scientific evidence is pointing towards. Science isn't perfect, but that's what's so perfect about it. So What are we supposed to do when this plethora of pseudoscientific, confusing documentary-style diet fad stuff comes our way? How do we approach that? 3 tips that I would like to give you guys that have helped me, and sure, I'm not a medical professional, but I'm a healthy and active person. Tip 1, use common sense, right? We all know things like greens and naturally unprocessed grains are high in things like fiber and vitamins and minerals. We also know that fruits have a lot of vitamins and minerals. And we also know that farm-raised, grass-fed animal protein is high in protein. All of these things kind of are good for you. But if you disagree or you don't want to eat one thing, that's a personal choice. Second, listen to your body. Listen to what it's saying, particularly your tummy. Maybe whenever you eat animal protein, you start getting upset stomach or you start feeling sick or nauseous, whatever. That might be an indicator that you have some sort of reaction to animal protein. Maybe a vegetarian diet is the diet for you. Whereas me, if I eat vegetables all day long, I feel exhausted and tired and I have an upset stomach. I'm sorry, I'm just an omnivore. That's how my ancestors were, and that's, I guess, how I am. Moreover, I just kind of like eating fish and animal meat. Third, and this is probably the most important one, instead of listening to huge government-regulated announcements or like FDA schemes, because we all know how the food pyramid worked out, go talk to your personal physician. Ask them their opinion. There's a few reasons why this is so effective. One, they're held accountable for the information and opinions that they give you. 2, they went to college. They got a medical degree. They more or less know what they're talking about. And 3, they have to retake a test every few years or a year or so to hold on to that PhD, which means that the old information that may or may not still be relevant gets updated, and the knowledge in their head gets updated. Plus, they're your physician. They care about you, and they know you, and you can actually talk to them. I think the biggest point I would like to make with this video is that you can be healthy without having a crazy kind of diet. Most diets aren't sustainable, like drinking green juices for months on end. Sorry, that's just not enough energy for the body, usually. But also, diet is about balance, not sacrifice. If a diet isn't sustainable long term, then why even give into it? My diet happens to be pretty versatile. The other day, I had a Subway sandwich. A few days before that, I had a hamburger from a fast food restaurant. The key is to not flood the body with those kind of foods, but balance them out with other meals. Since this From Lean to Mean series is about me dieting down and getting in shape to do photo shoots, I would like to show you guys a couple of recipes that are pretty common, pretty normal for me to eat during this time when I'm trying to lose weight and tone up. Keep in mind that I'm a pretty lean individual just naturally. It's pretty easy for me to lose weight, and other people's bodies will react differently to different kinds of foods. We're all different, we're all individuals, and that's why the diet fads, the pseudoscientific fear-mongering and scare tactics just aren't very effective, because they treat us all like we're this one thing, when really we're not. So here's a couple of recipes. It's a fish recipe and an animal protein recipe. And for those of you who are vegetarian or vegan, I'm going to include a recipe down below that is high in protein and good for a lean diet. But I didn't cook it because I knew that it would likely go to waste, and I don't want to waste food. But first, another point I would like to make about the animal and fishing industry, or feeding industry, or animal protein industry, is the problem isn't that we're eating animals. If you have an ethical problem with that, that's kind of a personal choice. But human beings were more or less made to be hunters and gatherers. I mean, that's just where we came from. We can choose now not to be, which is kind of cool, but we also reserve the right to keep those things in our diet. So the largest problem with animal meats and fish meats isn't that we're eating them, it's how we're eating them and where they come from, particularly animal feeding operations. These are places where more or less animals are packed into a small space, just grouped together, forced to stand there, and fed a diet of mostly corn, which is completely abundant in the United States, but also mostly devoid of any nutrition whatsoever. That's why I say if you would like to eat animal protein and fish protein, check and see if it's grass-fed, check and see if it's farm-raised. This is a more natural, more sustainable type of animal protein. Moreover, it supports your local economy and your local farmer. Sacrifice the money you would spend on sodas and other soft drinks and sugary things and garbage like chips and a bunch of candy, and put that money towards the extra amount that it costs to get healthy food.
The first recipe is going to be a ground turkey and brown rice recipe. You will need olive oil, 1 cup of brown rice, some lean ground turkey, lemon pepper seasoning, some crushed red pepper, salt, and a tomato, and really only about a quarter of an onion. First, bring 2 cups of water to a boil on the stove. Putting a lid on the pot will help it boil faster. Always make sure you have sharp knives to use, because dull knives are actually more dangerous to cut with. Dice up the onion as well as the tomato. Once the water starts boiling, pour in the rice, along with a little bit of olive oil to prevent it from sticking to the pan, and cover on simmer. Then heat up a frying pan, place a little bit of olive oil in the pan, spread it around so the turkey doesn't stick, and begin to brown the turkey. Once it becomes a little brown, place some of the seasonings. Once the ground turkey reaches a brown point, then add in the onion and the tomato. At this point, the rice should be close to finished. And serve the turkey on top of the rice, and I added a little bit of verde salsa to give it a little kick. This second recipe calls for olive oil, red potatoes, salmon. This is about half a pound fillet right here. Some frozen Brussels sprouts. You can also use green beans or peas, Himalayan salt, and pepper. First, season the salmon with salt and pepper. And place the salmon in the oven at 400 degrees, about 10 minutes for each inch of thickness in the salmon. Then poke holes in the red potato and cover with a wet, damp paper towel. Then place in the microwave for about 4 minutes. Preheat a pan, put a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick, and place your veggies inside and cover. After the potatoes are done cooking, remove them from the paper towels and slice them. And you can either add them to the pan with the veggies, or you can cook them in a separate pan, depending on how you like your food.
If you like this video or found it helpful or had good information, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for continued information and little diet tips and tricks, and follow me on my journey for how I get to be lean and get ready for photo shoots, and also how the process of doing photo shoots works.